Okay, everyone, welcome to the webinar. We are excited to hear about Unlock New Business Growth with AP Automation in Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365 with Bob Monio from Kofax and David Grundel. First, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box and we will get them called out and answered for you. Second, we do record this and all of our webinars. If you want to review the recording or have someone else in your organization see it, you can find it later this afternoon at innovia.com. And now, without further ado, we'll turn it over to Bob and he will start the presentation.
Great. Well, thank you, Angie, and thank you to the Innovia team and to all of you who have joined us here today, where we're going to be spending time talking to you about how accounts payable automation in NAV and Dynamics 365 is something that you can take advantage of very quickly, very easily, and it's very, very, very affordable, as Microsoft is now making it available as something that is in the box and available to you within NAV and Dynamics 365. Again, my name is Bob Monio, and on behalf of the Kofax team, we're very happy to be here today to present this to you, speaking really from a Microsoft perspective, and then also talking from a Kofax standard, how we're supporting the invoice extraction in the features that Microsoft is making available to you. Over the course of the next 45 minutes or so, you're going to see some demonstrations, and you're going to see how the product works in context of Microsoft NAV and Dynamics 365, and how you can quickly turn on your accounts payable functions and start to receive benefits and return on that investment and quick savings to your bottom line. Just as a reminder, as you heard from Angie, if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A segment at the end. And again, this is recorded, so do take the time to share with other members of your organization and make it something that they'll be able to go out and look at out on the Innovia website. So that recording will be available to you. Now, we do want to make sure we focus on helping you understand really what is accounts payable automation, because it's important that you understand why Microsoft has taken the steps that they have to put these features into the system. And really, what is that benefit? What are those drivers, economic drivers, certainly, that made Microsoft take these steps and deliver this incredible value proposition to its customers? So we're going to take time today to do that and make sure you understand why it's important. We're also going to then step into the world of Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365 and discuss how it supports that AP automation. And David Grundel, as you can see his picture here, he's one of our pre-sales technical managers. He's going to take some time to walk you through a little bit of how NAV and Dynamics 365 supports this, so you'll see how you can get started using it, how quickly it can be set up. And then also, since we have members of the Innovia team here on the call, such as Jeff Borgolowski and others, they're there to listen and to be available going forward in the future, so that they can help you turn this on and take advantage of the savings that you can get from the AP automation capabilities. And of course, we will have that Q&A at the end, so please do put your questions into the chat panel and we'll make sure that we get them answered for you. So as we get started, what I'd like to do is really kind of start out with something that's really looking at accounts payable automation from a humorous perspective. And we like to do this because AP sometimes is construed as being sort of one of those boring areas of the business. It's one of those areas of the business that, I didn't mean that in a negative way, mind you, but it's one of those areas of the business that people take for granted. It just sort of happens. But there's a fallacy with that. It really doesn't happen the way it's supposed to. And with the overwhelming majority of companies today not having an automated AP department, what you find is, and as Dilbert finds, it's very hard to get things done when it comes to paying your suppliers inside your organization. And whether it's a scenario where you can't find the invoices because they've disappeared or they're stored away someplace and you have no idea where they're at. Maybe it's a situation where approvals that were supposed to be done in order to get a supplier paid aren't occurring because somebody hasn't been able to be reached, or they haven't been contacted or something hasn't gone on in that regard. There's a number of different things that do come up that impact your ability to process accounts payable invoices inside the organization. And while we look at it from a humorous perspective, it really is a dilemma that companies face today, a dilemma that's evidenced in the area of inefficiency in how you handle the incoming supplier invoices. As your suppliers send them in, where do they go? How are they processed? We know that the overwhelming majority of them today is coming in on paper. And because it is coming in on paper, naturally, paper is something that has to take up storage. You have to find a way to get that transferred across in an electronic format into the back-end system so that you can begin processing it. So there's a keying process that occurs, and that keying can be very expensive and very inefficient, especially if things get keyed in incorrectly. There's also a visibility issue when it comes to what happens once it gets into your system. Many organizations today are faced with lost or missing invoices because something was put in, the paper was filed away, and unfortunately, they don't know where they put it. Approval processes are not being employed correctly. So if you needed someone in a particular department to approve an invoice accordingly, that process doesn't occur, and unfortunately, then the invoice sits and doesn't get paid or get processed through. There's also an area we look at it from a controls standpoint. It's in the controls area when you look at compliancy and standard procedures that if you don't have automated facilities in place, you're going to see the audit costs that you have, your ability to manage fraud and other types of things become a real concern to your business. And therefore, when it comes to controls, having that automated AP department is something that can really assist you when it comes to managing your compliancy and your internal controls inside the organization. And if you look at how companies and corporations today do their typical AP process, what you see is it's really a stair-stepping that occurs, a stair-stepping that is fraught with all of those concerns I just shared, from delays all the way through wasted resources and errors. And each of these steps that you go through are opportunities for automation to be entered in, automation that takes and utilizes technology as a tool and as an accelerator to help you move things through faster so that ultimately it costs less to process the invoice through the organization. This cycle time that I'm referring to, the time it takes to get from the bottom on the left-hand side all the way to the right-hand side, can be very, very long and very, very time-consuming today. But with the right technology, you can improve this process, cut that cycle time, and ultimately cut your cost per invoice. If any of you on the phone are CFOs or controllers or responsible for your accounts payable department, you'll understand what I mean when I speak to the cost per invoice. And if you can cut that cost per invoice down, then you can return that savings back to your bottom line. So it really truly is a savings back to the organization that can be repurposed for many different things and for other uses inside the company. Now, Microsoft looked at this and realized that their customers needed to have accounts payable facilities as a standard function within NAV and Dynamics 365, a standard function that would help them improve their cycle time, improve their cost per invoice, and help move invoices more rapidly through the system and improve and address all of these concerns that I'm just referring to right now. And it was back in the fall of 2015 when Microsoft introduced NAV 2016, their 2016 release of NAV. And in doing so, they introduced at that time invoice automation building blocks that would help you be able to manage the incoming invoices as they would be brought into NAV, employ a very strategically placed extraction capability for purposes of taking all of the content from those invoices and translate that through into corresponding NAV documents, incoming documents, so that you could begin processing them as part of the AP process. They also employed a full storage facility for storing and archiving with very easy lookup the invoices themselves, including the actual invoice image. So you no longer had to keep the paper around any longer. You could eliminate those rooms full of filing cabinets and other things that you traditionally had to have. Now you could have it all stored and easily searchable within NAV. They also introduced a full automation facility for the perspective of providing workflows to automate the processing, the handoff, the approvals, and other things that would be necessary to ensure that invoices were approved, that they were getting returned back and then passed through appropriately so that payments could be made and suppliers could be happy. All of these building blocks are available to you out of the box with Microsoft Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365. An incredible, incredible opportunity for customers to have in their hands now something that traditionally could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to deploy and was only available to the largest firms in the world because they were the only ones that could afford the software, that could afford the hardware, that could afford all of the things that were necessary to really bring and put this together. But today, through NAV, Dynamics 365, and with the partner community, partners like Innovia, you have what you need now to be able to go in and turn this on and ultimately be able to drive in that savings. And those things I talked about earlier, those key issues can now be addressed because you can reduce your errors, you'll improve the visibility. Of course, you'll see the cost savings, the enhanced productivity, but again, we've shortened those steps. We've shortened the number of steps that you have to go through in order to get an invoice in and get it over and released for payment quickly and efficiently and allow your business to continue to move forward. And again, as I stated, it's all out of the box in NAV and Dynamics 365. Now, there are some hard line numbers here to pay attention to when it comes to these cost savings that I've been sort of just speaking about briefly before. And when I speak of cost savings, these are things that your business will understand. The people who are in the C-level, or if you're a small firm, your company president and others will recognize this. These are areas that with this type of savings being introduced can have a dramatic impact on your business and put more money back into your bottom line. And we really refer to them in three areas. Certainly, we know that the invoice processing time, the number of days, is something that we want to address. And if you look at today, the laggards, so to speak, which are really some of the worst cases, and I will tell you, David and I have seen a lot worse cases than this, sometimes as much as 20 or 30 days it'll take to get an invoice through an organization's AP department. That being said, the average today is about 8.8, okay, which isn't too bad, but it's not very good, because the quicker you can pay your suppliers, the quicker you can take and address early payment discounts, which is a scenario where a supplier will give you discounts because you've paid them early, and you've in turn allowed them to take and receive that cash faster, and then they will discount their products accordingly, which is something you can then pass through to your customers, which ultimately then allows your customers to step forward and buy more from you. So it is a self-fulfilling prophecy that you will sell more if you can improve your accounts payable process, and it's been proven to be that way. Also, when it comes to the processing from a cost per invoice standpoint, we've seen costs much, much higher than $23. In fact, one of the customers we were speaking with some time ago told us that their cost per invoice was upwards of $50 per invoice. If you think about that, and you look at the number of invoices you process in any given year and multiply that out, that's a huge amount of money you're paying to process and pay a supplier. Imagine what you could do if you could reduce that cost and bring that back down and do that in a sufficient way that it costs you less. And now that money that you were once spending can be put back into the organization. So if you look at the best in class numbers, and as you think about this journey of those stair steps and moving towards accounts payable automation, think about the fact that in the industry, in a best in class, companies that are doing this today, they're seeing invoices processed through their environment in less than 4 days. They're getting their cost per invoice down to as little as $4 per invoice, and they're ultimately capturing about 2/3 of the early payment discounts. So you can do this, and you can do this by leveraging the accounts payable features that are available inside of Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365. We regularly tell customers that you can achieve an 80% savings in your cost per invoice and cut your cycle time by as much as 60% if you do this. And honestly, after working with well over 15,000 customers and processing 4 billion invoices annually a year through systems that we work with, like Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365, we know this is true, and you can take advantage of this today. Now, of course, from a Kofax perspective, we were chosen by Microsoft to provide the extraction capabilities necessary to take everything off of paper and deliver that into Dynamics NAV, Dynamics 365. They chose us because they wanted a cloud-based solution. They wanted something that was very easy to use. It had a learning engine. A customer could quickly subscribe to the service from within NAV. NAV would control all of the interfacing, do all of the work that was necessary, and you could be up and running and processing invoices in less than 10 minutes. This is a huge, huge step forward in comparison to the traditional systems, which can take up to 30 days to set up. You have to program that system. Here you don't have to. The system, having so many customers and so many different suppliers working with this engine, we regularly see better than 90% immediate pass-through of our invoices, of invoices coming into the system and flowing directly through the back end without having to do any correction, because the system is a self-learning machine learning engine. It's something that continues to learn from all of the suppliers who are being processed through the service. So you get the advantage of this. And this is something that Microsoft wanted to take advantage of as well for customers and be able to make that available. We also worked with Microsoft to make available 2 ways to acquire the service. One, in a freemium mode, click, try, and buy, which allows you with 0 obligation to be able to go in and actually test the service, process 75 free invoices per month, and do that in such a way that you can verify that the system works. And we agree with that. We think that's a great way to let customers really test and begin to use the service and begin to see that benefit and value. Of course, you can then move on and subscribe. You're going to receive a greatly reduced price in your subscription. There's a variety of other features that are employed here as well. The good news is it's easy to set up, and it really does take less than 10 minutes for you to begin processing and testing. And with no cost and no setup fee, many customers are testing the service and validating it and working with it. We see as many as 3 to 5 new activations a day with customers doing this, and of course working with their partners like Innovia to then turn it on and really take advantage of these cost savings. Now, it does work with NAV 2016, NAV 2017, of course with NAV 2018 that's forthcoming, and all Dynamics 365 releases. So again, you can take advantage of that. And we want you to understand that Microsoft builds and supports this integration. So it is something that you can count on as part of your contracts that you have for NAV, your support contracts and other things that Microsoft will step in and do support work for you. Of course, I did comment on the architecture built on Azure. That's the Microsoft Cloud. I did also comment on the fact that this is very much cheaper than any other product out there in the market today, sometimes up to 5 times the savings versus other third-party products. One thing we do know is that immediately by flipping the switch and beginning to use this, depending on your cost per invoice, you can save between $5 and $20 per invoice just in the OCR extraction savings and turning this on. So many customers have realized what we've been saying all along is, and that is you can test this and work with this service and see immediate savings today. So there's no reason not to begin working with your partners and beginning to start using it and working with it in that way. Now, just some reminders real quickly here. As I mentioned, NAV and Dynamics 365 provide the complete AP automation tool set. And what you can expect from us in working with Microsoft and working with Innovia is that we'll make sure that the integrated OCR capabilities are the best in the industry, complete invoice extraction, pass-through, as well as a verification and learning engine. Inexpensive and less than 10 minutes to set it up, and of course, amazing partners like Innovia who can implement your AP automation work and help you achieve those results. Now, David's going to do a quick demo for you here in just a moment. Before he does that, let me just kind of let you know what you're going to see from him, because again, very easy to set up, very easy to work with. When you do utilize the OCR extraction as that first building block, okay, from within NAV, you're going to have NAV then step out and help you do the sign up. You'll create a quick account. You can then send the invoice to an email box or upload it, all right? We'll then extract all of that information, provide that searchable PDF, and put it back into Dynamics NAV. And you get to that from inside of NAV Dynamics 365 by using the OCR setup screen. You might have noticed that there were some new buttons that were added, and some new screen user interfaces that were added from NAV 2016 forward. This was to turn on these various facets of the OCR service and how it would work. So again, all of this is available to you to be run from within NAV, and of course then the corresponding document management features. This is basically the things that Microsoft is providing to you for routing, for transferring of information, for synchronization of master data, doing all the things that you would typically want and need in order to process your invoice through the system. Microsoft provides as part of their user interface within NAV, and of course then it's connected back to our back-end system. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask our moderator, Angie, if she could pass control over to David, and we're going to ask David to do a quick demo for you. So David, over to you.
All right, thank you. I'll share my screen here. Can you see that, Bob?
Yes, I do. Go ahead, David.
All right, so what I'm going to show you is from the very beginning of signing up for this service. I'm going to take you through the extraction of an invoice and the ingestion of the metadata and the image file into NAV for approval and payment. So where I would start to use this service, and something you can do today, as we offer a premium try before you buy, if you like, service, is inside of NAV. You just go to the OCR. You go search for OCR. And you get to the OCR service setup. This is all built in your AX version. So from within this configuration screen, you can click on the sign up URL. This will bring you to the store where you would sign up for the use of the ICS service. So inside of this store here, you could choose what model to use. If you want to start with a free, try this out, you sign up simply by clicking here, test it for free. This will give you 75 invoices per month. You add it to your chart. You just add some company information and some email address and so forth. And what you get in return, I'm not going to fill this out for you. I'm going to show you what the end result is. What you get in return, so you click this link in NAV, it brings you to the store page. You will get a confirmation email back with some information that you need to enter into NAV to activate this service, and that will also activate the integration between the two services. So you get an authorization key and you will have a username and a password. So with that information that was generated in an email, you go back into your OCR setup screen, you put in your email address, the password, and that authorization key. And then you pick what OCR language basically you'd like to process in. And we have support for many different regions. This means we have localized knowledge by all these regions, which means obviously we read the characters, we understand the tax situation, if it's VAT, sales tax, GST, PST in Canada, and so forth. We also know and understand how to identify an invoice in certain regions. So it's pre-built and comes out of the box with the fields that are most likely necessary to process and pay an invoice in that region. So by doing that, this is a quick setup. Now you have enabled NAV to receive invoices that were extracted from the ICS OCR solution. So I'm going to switch hat real quick and go into ICS instead, which is the cloud-based OCR and capture solution. This sits in the Microsoft Azure cloud. So what ICS does is that it extracts all the information needed on the supplier invoice, ingests the data into NAV. And the most common way of this process to start is for your suppliers to email straight into the cloud. They will be provided with an email address where to send their invoices in form of PDF files or TIFF files or whatever format they're using. Then this ICS service will then just receive the email attachment and it will extract the data. If you have paper-based invoices, obviously you can use a scanner or a multifunction device to either scan to email or scan to a folder where this service automatically monitors and uploads invoices to the cloud for extraction. So if I just open up, this is the end user interface for correction. Basically, this is an exception handling screen. You don't have to be in this screen at all, but I need to or would like to show you what it would look like. So this is the user interface. Should there be any questions, and with questions I mean validation questions such as the supplier was not found, or there's no PO number, or the amount field is missing. Required fields, if they don't check out complete in this OCR extraction, they will end up in this exception screen for an AP user to review, confirm, or change the data. So this is a very easy interface to work with. You have the invoice image here to the left. You have supplier information, the header and the footer field, and then you have the line item to the bottom. So the way this extraction tool works is that we read everything on the page, meaning we do a full page OCR. We find the remit to information. We use that to validate or identify the supplier based on data coming from your vendor master, obviously. Then we start from top to bottom to extract the fields. And this is using titles and synonyms of titles and also algorithms and machine learning. And we also share this knowledge with. We're not sharing any supplier-specific information, but the generic layout of invoices from same suppliers are used by all customers, and that you can expect more or less 100% extraction rate. So the way this works, if I click on invoice number, it's found and identified this to be the invoice number based on the word invoice here. This does now not mean that the invoice number needs to be present in that location every time. It can move freely on the invoice. It's just simply looking for the word invoice. It also looks for the word invoice number, INV, MBR, reference pound, and several others to find this value and also allow for it to move on the invoice. There are also business logic built in saying most likely the invoice number and invoice date is in the top right corner, total amount is on the last page in the bottom right, and so forth. Same thing with date. It's just looking for a word, keyword. It does know that when we look for the invoice or PO date, we don't need the due date or shipping date or anything like that. So it's very smart and intelligent. It does an excellent job of extracting the data on machine printed invoices like this. It also extracts line items. So when I'm done in this screen here, I'll go and click the OK button. This would and could be automated too, but let's say I had some sort of issue I had to solve here. The supplier did not enter in the PO number, for example. You click OK, the image file and all this captured data will go into NAV seamlessly or within a few seconds. So that's the capture service. If I switch hats back into NAV here and go to incoming documents, you'll see here that a document has arrived into NAV here. This OCR status column is new. It came with the OCR configuration function here that was developed by Microsoft. That means that you can use statuses and steps related to the OCR process in your workflows. So what I did with the standard NAV workflow was that I created a workflow saying if an incoming document with OCR success arrives, create a purchase invoice. So instead of having to do that manually on every single invoice, because it would just be an incoming document if we didn't create the invoice. So to show you that, this is just to eliminate manual work that would be unnecessary. So if I go into the workflow, first I can show you here, if you're not familiar with it, there are several workflow templates inside of NAV that you can use to create workflows. And I've also created an approval workflow chain of approvals and so forth. So there are several workflows here, and the guys at Innovia can help you with this as well. But if I show you the workflow that I have created for this particular purpose would be, the creation of a purchase invoice. So here's a workflow. This again, this is point-and-click standard Microsoft functionality, or NAV functionality, I should say. So if a document comes in with OCR status success, create a purchase document. So then I automated that step. The second workflow I created, workflows are obviously optional, but these are very common workflows to do. The second one I created was an approval workflow, right, where I have set this invoice to go through a chain of approvals, and I'm also having spending limits. So when this invoice is first sent to approval, it will go to Alicia, but Alicia only has a spending limit of $5,000. This invoice is $14,000, I believe, so it will go to her supervisor or manager or the department head, which is Bob in this case, and he can approve this invoice if it's less than $20,000. And if it's over $20,000, it goes to his manager and so forth. These are the workflows that are built into NAV that you can utilize for this process. Also, what I'd like to or should mention, once this invoice is created as a purchase invoice, whatever workflows and coding and approvals you're using today in NAV will stay intact. We're just replacing or eliminating the manual data entry so that you can more or less automatically receive the invoices into your system. So if I open the actual purchase invoice here that came from the ICS capture solution, what you will get here in AX, which is also where you would save the time and start this, we can call it more or less electronic process, is that you get all this data populated on the invoice. Sorry, wrong screen. You'll get all the captured data, and you'll also be able to see, which I'm going to show you here, the actual invoice image, since we're storing that as well. So here's the invoice that came from, there we go. This is the information that was populated by the ICS capture solution, line items, the amounts, and the dates, and so forth. And the supplier is known because we already determined who it was based on that Remitsu lookup. And you can also bring up the invoice image file to review or look at anytime. So this is still known as emailed from the supplier or scanned by you into the ICS capture service. It will tag along with the invoice all the way till your payment, and then it will be archived in NAV for future needs. But that's basically how it works in NAV. It's very easy and simplified, I believe, to configure it. You simply go to that OCR screen and follow the instructions. It's very easy. There's also numerous resources out there on the web, both for Kofax and for Microsoft NAV, where you can follow this setup and also learn how to create workflows and such. So again, as I said, that's a quick introduction to this service. By all means, please go and try this freemium version and have a try and see how it works. It should be very self-intuitive and easy to start with. Then I can hand over to Bob.
Okay, well, thank you very much, David. And as we ask our moderator to transfer control back over to me, what I'd like to do is I'd like to just take and maybe summarize some of the things that David shared with you during his demonstration. As you've seen, it's very easy to go in and register yourself in the service. And once that registration is done, you can be up and processing your invoices in less than 10 minutes. It's very, very quick. Once the code has been put inside of NAV, at that point you're authenticated to the service and you can begin doing invoice processing. We also showed you how some of the invoice data then is represented. You saw how you can access the images, how you can actually see the incoming documents, how you can do some work with some of the workflows that are there. And of course, we discussed some of the other automation that can be accomplished with NAV, Dynamics 365, and the support of Innovia. I mean, recognize that as you look at each of the individual steps that make up your AP process, there are areas there for automation that can be undertaken. And these are things that the Innovia team can assist you on and help you through that process so that you can continue to receive more and more and more return on investment for the things that Microsoft has made available to you as part of the solution. Now, certainly you might be wondering, well, who is using this solution? How is it being used out there in the field with NAV and Dynamics 365? And we can tell you that today, since its launch, we have over 1,600 customers worldwide who are using the solution. It's the fastest growing solution that Microsoft has delivered as an OEM integration and feature that they've made available with NAV, far surpassing any of the other competitive tools and things that are out there today, because customers have realized that given that it's available inside of NAV and Dynamics 365, you're banking on the best then by working with Microsoft and leveraging the things that Microsoft brings forward. And there's a litany of customer examples from around the world that are available that you can take a look at and see how they're using it today. Of course, we together with Innovia and Microsoft will be at a number of upcoming events. The Microsoft event that they call Summit, this is done in conjunction with the Dynamics Communities organization, is coming up just around the corner here in the fall, so you'll have a chance to see this solution discussed there. Microsoft, of course, will be doing other events as well. So this is definitely something that is moving ahead aggressively, and you should be looking at taking advantage of it as well. There is quite a bit of supporting material and documentation about the solution available, videos and other tools that you can use. Of course, you have the recording of today's call that you can leverage. There are battle cards and other materials available. We do encourage that you contact your Innovia team for more information and access to these materials. Also, if you're interested in the area of accounts payable in general, accounts payable something that we know very, very well at Kofax, and we encourage you to go out to our Kofax.com website and take a look at some of the thought leadership materials specific to the area of accounts payable, something that you can download and use within your organization as part of sharing the value of what you'll receive by taking advantage of doing the accounts payable automation and getting that in place and using that accordingly as part of your business. This is, again, probably one of the #1 areas that companies are looking to see return on investment from and engaging on. Hence, that's why Microsoft took these steps, and it is something that in the Dynamics community, we've seen the research that proves this as well. So let's just do a quick recap before we step into asking about some questions and things, and just sort of remind you that, as I said earlier, AP processing is now affordable. By doing this out of the box, you can literally save tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars that you traditionally would have had to pay to bring in another product. I mean, think about it. You would have had to pay for a document management solution. You would have had to pay for a scanning solution. You would have had to pay for a search solution. You would have had to pay for a workflow solution. You have to pay for all these components. You have to put them together, and you'd have to pay for maintenance, you'd have to pay for the hardware, you have to pay for all that stuff that now you're getting out of the box today from Microsoft, and of course with the extraction capabilities that are provided by Kofax. This is an incredible, incredible value that you've been presented with, and of course Microsoft has ongoing roadmaps and other things that they're undertaking to continue to expand in and leverage customer feedback and partner feedback to continue to improve what they're doing in this space. So it is now affordable and something that you can take advantage of. Also, we spoke about the workflow. The workflow is something that introduces a new paradigm around process automation within NAV and Dynamics 365. You can customize that workflow, and you can utilize wizards and other tools to do this. You can expand this into other areas of your business, such as HR and sales and such. And with that in play, Innovia can be your best source for helping you with that process optimization. So we encourage you to speak with them about this and take advantage again of this very important tool. From the cloud standpoint, we all know that the cloud is something that is really revolutionizing business today. And since this solution and the solutions coming from Microsoft are built on Azure, which is by all marks now, and what we're seeing from the analyst community, it is the world's leading cloud architecture. You've got the best possible solution there in your hands, and it will scale and grow as your businesses grow, and it is really optimized for the market. There's other tools that are made available here too. So you have self-service e-commerce capabilities for sign up as part of the capture service is concerned. There is reporting and administration both inside of NAV and Dynamics 365 and our solution for purposes of managing multiple entity customers, because many of the customers out there today manage additional entities as part of their NAV environment in a shared service or multiple location accounting and processing. This is something that you can do out of the box with the solution from Microsoft. And finally, immediate impact. As we shared earlier, just by turning this on, you can save between $5 and $20 per invoice and reduce your transcription errors. In fact, you can just pretty much eliminate your transcription errors completely. You can also address the overall AP cost savings as it applies to the cost per invoice, cycle time, and starting to achieve some of those early payment discounts. And for those of you on the phone who are looking at, I want to upgrade, I might want to purchase, I want to move to the next release of NAV. This is a great way for you to do this, because you can take this savings and you can utilize this as a business driver to help you go back and cost justify that upgrade. And our friends at Innovia can help you understand how to do that and help you leverage this as part of that sales process. So some incredible benefits that Microsoft has made available to you. And it's interesting, just from my time in the market and speaking with customers about this, again, 140,000 customers around the world, and it's still something that as we encounter customers, we talk to them about it, they don't always realize they have this available to them out of the box. So put this to work and make it a fundamental part of how you operate your business. So before we close, what I'd like to do is see if there are any questions. And at this point, I'm just going to ask our moderator, Angie. Angie, did any questions come in through the chat panel?
Hi, Bob. We do have some questions. The first one is, if I use the free freemium mode, please remind me how many invoices per month do I get to process again?
Sure, I'll take that question. The question was related to the freemium mode. This is one of the two ways that you can acquire access to the extraction service. And the freemium mode provides you 75 free invoices a month. No questions asked. You can go ahead and you can start processing. And if you do go over, okay, you will be billed for going over the 75. It's about 99 cents per invoice, still incredibly cheap from a invoice cost perspective, but still 75 free invoices is literally unheard of in the market today, and we do that with Microsoft because we want you to understand the true value that you're getting from the solution. So great question.
Okay, next question. How do I get service support for the AP capabilities? Who do I turn to?
I'll take that question as well, and I know David, you listen to these specifically on this because as you look at the support, certainly Microsoft and Innovia are your two support organizations that assist you from the standpoint of the work that you do with NAV and Dynamics 365, because Microsoft built the interfacing to work with the extraction service. They'll take your support requests, and correspondingly, if there's anything that needs to be brought up to our attention, then we'll respond to both Innovia and also Microsoft accordingly. You will see on the next slide that I do provide a couple of email addresses where you can request additional sales and support by sending a note in. Of course, those are monitored 7/24, so you'll get a response back in that area. But again, you've got the best organizations in the world here working to help you from a support standpoint.
Okay, and if I want to create more workflows in NAV Dynamics 365 or work with Innovia on this, where do I turn for more information?
Okay, that's another great question. David did a great job of showing you some of the workflow wizards and things that are available today inside of NAV. Those wizards are there, and some of those pre-built templates to help you be able to see how you can either create new ones, or you can just customize the ones that are there. And the Innovia team, and as part of the blueprinting that they can do with you as part of your business processes, can help you identify how to create new workflows and extend those into other areas of your business. I think I mentioned earlier too that you can use the workflow engine for not just accounts payable, but you can use it for Salesforce automation items. You can use it for things in your HR department, as far as being able to look at, incoming hire requisitions and approvals and things. So it's a very, very, very capable and multifaceted tool. So for more information, speak to your Innovia team. Also, Microsoft does have a lot of information available on their customer source site and on their websites too.
Okay, and can I use the workflow tools to work with other areas of my business?
Yes, indeed. I think I just spoke to that a minute ago. You can work with your HR department, Salesforce department, and other areas. It is, again, a multifaceted tool. So I'm glad actually that question's coming up as it is, because this is, again, a very powerful tool that you would have had to pay a lot of money for in the past. That's available to you now, so take advantage of it.
And does NAV Dynamics 365 support e-invoicing support for AP automation?
There's a really good question. It means we've got some folks on the line who have or are working in scenarios where they're working with suppliers who are utilizing or are part of e-invoicing networks. For those who aren't using those or are aware of it, let me just fill this in as part of this answer. There are a number of suppliers around the world who partake in e-invoicing networks where a common invoice format is used so they can speak to multiple customers, hundreds of thousands of customers, and provide their invoices to them. Certainly NAV is working with customers who have suppliers that operate in this fashion. And yes, you can receive e-invoices through e-invoicing networks and through proprietary e-invoicing formats. I know in Europe, for example, there's a format called PEPL. That's a format that's being used. And actually, there are some countries where you can only do things via e-invoicing. So the answer is yes, you have that facility available to you, and it works with the invoice capture service and with NAV and Dynamics 365. So excellent question.
Okay, and we have a couple questions from Eduardo. He is asking, is the learning mode of your system only available in the paid version? Every time I process invoices from same vendors, the system never learns my changes.
The version that supports this, and let me see if I can qualify this for you, Eduardo, shouldn't be resident as to whether you're using freemium or you're using subscription. Okay, as long as you utilize the verification mode does talk to the learning engine and gives the learning engine information about this particular invoice that you're receiving. So it'll help identify the nuances that might not have been picked up previously when it was passed through and that it did not recognize. Once you've identified that change in the verification area, and certainly we can take this offline and Innovia can also support you on this, but once that's been provided back to the service, then the subsequent incoming invoices where this particular field that you're trying to extract are resident, they will pass that through to the system. And whether you're using freemium or you're using subscription, it does not matter. You should have access to that verification capability.
Okay, and we may have already answered this, but I'll ask it. Are the 75 free invoices equals 75 pages? There are many invoices that have multiple pages.
Another excellent question when it comes to how we look at invoices. Now, many of our competitors look at invoices on a per page basis and bill you based on that. We do not. We view the invoice as the entire packet of information that comprises a supplier's invoice coming in. It can be as many pages long, it can have as many line items as necessary, as many data elements as necessary, and as required for that supplier's invoice. So we do not count on a per page basis, only on a per invoice basis. And I hope we're clear with that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bob. That is all the questions that we have.
Okay.
If anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to contact us. And again, like I said earlier, this recording will be on our website for viewing purposes. And thank you everyone for attending. We're glad that we had you here on today's webinar, and we hope to see you on the next webinar. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.